Hiya, it's Laura, and today I'm going to be showing you what I made my family for Christmas and how I made those items. Every Christmas I turn into a literal elf and I'm just squirreled away in my room making gifts for my families for the entire month of December. Drafting, creating, gluing, sewing, painting, everything. I don't pride myself on a lot of things, but gift giving is like the one thing that I know I'm good at. Probably because I'm grossly sentimental and I like to give things that people didn't know they needed or wanted. For my family members, I always buy them one gift that I know they definitely want from the store, and then I always make them a gift that I think they'll like. Now, ever since I was a little girl, I always wanted to make people gifts just because I think it has a little bit more meaning and I have the ability and desire to do so. My gifts have gotten progressively more functional, as I'm sure all of my family will attest to. Personally, I'm not big on receiving gifts. I'm always constantly anxious, like, am I smiling enough when I open it? Am I showing enough gratitude? I always get anxious about receiving gifts just because I want the person to know that I'm so happy that they wanted to get me something. To me, my favorite part about Christmas is about giving gifts because I absolutely love seeing their reaction on their face. It just makes my day. I love giving gifts. I love causing people joy. I like it when people like the things that I make because it tells me as a crafter that the thing I made was high quality, or at least acceptable quality, and that it did its job, which is to make people happy. I know that sounds really over sentimental, and it's probably because it's Christmas time and I'm just into the giving spirit, but I hope you enjoy looking at the gifts that I made for my family this year as much as I enjoyed making them. My dad expressed an interest several months ago that he wanted to buy a seat cushion, just a conventional seat cushion that you would sit in like a dining room chair, maybe a rocking chair or something like that. And we were at Walmart together and he almost bought one, and then I was like, hang on, I can make you one of those. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, why not? So the first gift that I made is a cushion for my dad. To make the cushion, I got this set of 4 foam cushions from Walmart, and since my dad only wanted one cushion, I just decided to use all 4 of them, so it made a really thick cushion. I wanted this cushion to have a lot of crazy patterns on it, so I just rated my cotton print selection, and I picked out 16 different prints, and I just used a tile as a pattern and cut out my pieces that were the size of this tile. After that, I arranged my 16 different squares in an order that I would like. To make the quilt, I just sewed all of the squares together. So I did this row by row, and then I sewed all of the rows together. For the back of the cushion, I had this pretty thick blue corduroy material, and I cut out a square that was the same size as the quilted top. And then I also cut enough fabric for the sides of the cushion since it was really thick. I cut 4 long strips of the corduroy in order to make ties to sew into the cushion so that the cushion could be tied to the chair. To make the buttons for the cushion, I got these cloth buttons, and you can put any cloth on top of them, and they look really nice, and you can make them match whatever you're making. And then I had to use an upholstery needle and some clear thread, and I had to sit on top of the cushion because there was so much tension because of its thickness, and sew the buttons through and out through the other side. So the next gift that I made this year is for my brother. And my brother is a composer, so he composes a lot of his own musical pieces. So I wanted to get him something musical related. The idea that I have for my brother this year was to make him a music box, but make it a custom music box and have it play one of his very own compositions. So the first thing I did when making this is I went on Amazon.com, not sponsored, and I found a 30-note music box that you could program to play whatever you want. These kinds of music boxes come with these strips of music note paper, and they have the notes written on the side, and then they have all of these lines, and they give you this little tool which is basically a very small hole puncher, and you just punch all of your holes onto your strip. I asked my brother to arrange his composition that would fit in the octaves that are on this strip, and then I simply just transcribed that into music note holes. Music is only half of a music box, and I got the box that I used from my local antique store. It was this color before, and while that looked fine, I wanted to give it a little bit more of a classy look, so I bought some wood stain from my local hardware store, and I stained the box a nice red color. I then got my dad to help me drill a hole in the back for the crank of the music box. Next, I went to my local book thrift store and thrifted some old sheet music books and decoupaged them on the inside of the box. Lastly, I lined it with black velvet, and then I tucked the extra materials behind the actual music component so that my brother could orchestrate future songs if he wanted to. Moving on to my sister. My sister lives in her own apartment now, and like all people who move into new places, she needs some artwork to hang around. Several months ago, we were talking about what she would want. She said she really wanted a painting of some sort. I asked her, what kind of painting do you want? And she said, you could literally paint a spoon and I would hang that on my wall. I'm going to paint a spoon so she can hang it on her wall. It's kind of funny because I also used a random phrase generator to help me come up with ideas for the subject of my painting, and the first phrase I got generated was "not the sharpest tool in the shed." So I think it's just meant to be that I paint a spoon for my sister. So the painting is pretty self-explanatory. There's not much that I did that you wouldn't be able to see right here. I did take the reference photo myself. I wasn't able to find a photograph of a spoon that I really liked online, so I just thought I would do it. So I photographed a lovely silver spoon that we had in my room, and then I used that as my reference photo. Moving on to my mother. My mom does a lot of the cooking throughout the week. I'm making her pot holders. Pot holders are super easy to make and they're really functional too, and you can make them very customizable with the kind of quilting and the fabric that you use. So like I do with all sewing projects, the first thing I did for these oven mitts was trace a pattern around my hand. I usually trace patterns on parchment paper. Next, I used the pattern that I made. I traced out 2 of each of my main fabrics, and they are opposite each other so that when I sew them together, they will align. Next, I used some quilting batting, and if I had thermal batting, I would have used that, but I do not. So I just used 2 layers of quilting batting. Thermal batting protects better against the heat, but if you just have quilting batting, then it will still do an okay job. So next, I also cut out some fleece in the same shape of the mitt, and then I made a sandwich with the top fabric, 2 layers of batting, and my inner lining of fleece. I pinned those together and then I quilted. For the floral one, I did diagonal quilting, and for the pink one, I just did horizontal quilting. Next, I took the 2 quilted pieces and I put them right sides together, and I sewed along the outside for both of the mitts. Then I took some olive green bias tape, and folding out one of the sides, I pinned it around the circumference of the hand opening on both of the mitts. I also cut out a little loop of bias tape and sewed that in as well, so that the mitts could be hung up if needed. After sewing around that first loop of bias tape, I used a needle and thread and hand sewed using a slip stitch to sew the other side of the bias tape down inside of the mitt. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you find it inspiring and that you want to make your family gifts for Christmas in the future. And if you want to make your own gifts for your family, I highly recommend that you do so. Go to thrift stores, find cheap materials, and see if you can just put them together to make something cool. You don't need to spend a lot of money on materials, and you don't need to do all of these different things. My number 1 advice is to just start and see what you can create. I hope you are having a safe and happy holiday wherever you are right now, and I will see you with a new video soon. Bye!
Christmas. Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening. Beautiful sight, we're happy tonight, walking in a wonderland.